Man, I gotta tell you, getting to this Airbnb and staying in this area of Bradenton was a nice little pleasant surprise because I've only passed through Bradenton. I've never really stayed in the area before, and just staying in a neighborhood like this where it was nice and quiet was a welcoming treat and something I don't get at home. It was really nice. We just arrived at this Airbnb unit in Bradenton, Florida. And we chose this place because it was another large apartment, 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom. Obviously, we don't need both bedrooms. It's just me and Lizzie. It just happened to be a 2 bedroom. And it was kind of like the only one in the area for a good price. So we decided to take it. And it looks pretty nice. And let me show you around. But there was a little bit of complications, but I'll talk about that as I'm showing you the place. So as soon as you walk in, you got the living room here, and it's a pretty open concept place. Looks like a newer apartment complex, and seems to be decently furnished. The only downside, this one doesn't have the king size beds that we like, but it's only 2 nights, so we can rough it. Little balcony here. It's a pretty little sunset view. Not too bad, huh? So this one I think we paid about $430, I want to say, for 2 nights. So not too bad considering the hotels around this area were more than that. Most of them are about $500 for 2 nights, and probably because it's the weekend. It's the holiday weekend, it's Mother's Day weekend. So of course they're charging extra. Got a second bathroom here. Everything does look pretty clean and new. So my one gripe with this place is that when we first got here, it's like a gated system. So I'll put it up on the footage so you guys can see from the dash cam pulling in. You need a key card to get in this place. So the only way you can get in is with that key card, and they didn't tell me before I checked in that you would need that, and so I had to wait before I could get in, because there was people there, whatever. But it's like very unprofessional for somebody to host an Airbnb like that and not actually give you the appropriate instructions on how to get in a place. I stayed in a place like this before, and they did have appropriate instructions, but it just gives me bad vibes, especially as a real estate agent, because you know that most likely they're probably doing it under the table. They're not supposed to be doing Airbnb, and it makes you feel like kind of on edge staying in a place like this, knowing that you're probably not supposed to be here. So that's a problem in my book, but a lot of people might not care about that. But being in the real estate business, it can be an issue, and you could potentially get evicted from the management on site if they find out you're here illegally and you're not approved to be here. So hopefully nothing like that will happen, but it's always a possibility, and I will be informing the host that I'm not too happy about that. But other than that, the place itself is pretty nice.
Yeah.
So today's Saturday, the day before Mother's Day. We just checked into this Airbnb. And this is only the second Airbnb that we stayed at so far, besides the house that you guys saw in St. Augustine. Ever since then, we've been staying in hotels, and I kind of wanted to stay in Airbnbs more than we have been, but at the same time, I don't, for a couple different reasons. Like, first of all, because of situations like this, like I just explained, sometimes you have these weird little check-in hiccups and things like that. And it doesn't really happen at a hotel. You just go there, show your ID, they give you the card, and you go up to your room, boom, you're in. Also, the other thing is, I tell you guys to stay in Airbnbs when you want to get a sense of what it's like to live in the neighborhood, but I know I'm not really looking to live over here, and I've never stayed in Bradenton before, so we kind of took a chance staying at this place, because you can also end up at a place that is in kind of a sketchy neighborhood, because with Airbnb you really don't know where the place is at until after you book it, and that's kind of like the downside to doing Airbnb, I would say, as well, because with the hotels you know exactly the addresses, and you can kind of get a sense of where the place is at and if it's close to the things you want to do and see while you're visiting an area. versus the Airbnb, it can kind of be the luck of the draw. I know the last time we went to Charleston, South Carolina, we ended up at a kind of sketchy place in a weird neighborhood, and we thought it might be nice to stay in an Airbnb, but it was actually kind of creepy. But things like that can happen, and overall, the hotels we've been staying in have been pretty good too. You know, it's not a whole apartment like this, but at the same time, I don't really mind because most of the time we're just there to sleep anyways. We really don't need this big apartment. We just booked it because it was the best deal, really. You know, it was cheaper than staying in a hotel, believe it or not. Also, the one thing I've noticed after being on the road this long is that there's just more options with hotels. And I think what happens is, especially if you're booking rooms at the last minute like we have, we've been checking out of the room, 11 a.m. And then we just book something after lunch at like 4 o'clock that same day for checking in. I think if the hotels have vacancy, then they're maybe willing to give a little bit better rate at the last moment like that, and it's kind of easier to secure a better deal. But I've noticed that at the same time, staying in the hotels on the weekends, even if it's not a holiday weekend, just like the previous weekend, is way more expensive, and sometimes you can get an Airbnb with a better deal like this. So it just depends. That's been my experience so far. Um, I kind of like staying in both, but at the same time, the hotels are just a little more convenient, I would say. And also, it's easier to keep track of your stuff because when you're carrying all your stuff in and out, you're just in this one little studio room, versus a big two-bedroom apartment like this. It's kind of easy to lose some stuff, spreading out and moving your things around. But those are just little things I notice that I just feel like ranting about right now.